The Green Sheet is a financial publication of the MWRA Advisory Board. The August installment acts as a year-end review for fiscal year 2014. The review covers three categories. First is capital spending, which includes the 5-year CIP forecast, the actual fiscal year 14 spending by category, and the life-to-date capital spending through fiscal year 14. Next is the fiscal year 14 budget by category with an in-depth look at actual versus budgeted spending for direct and indirect expenses, and also capital financing, highlighting how these topics impact the future through the most recent defeasance transaction. Starting with a 5-year CIP Outlook, this chart shows forecasted wastewater, waterworks, and business spending over the 5-year cap period running from fiscal year 14 through 18. A full explanation of the 5-year CIP spending cap is available by viewing the July Green Sheet. For fiscal year 14, the original projected spending was $142 million, but that number was revised during the fiscal year 15 planning process to a projected $117 million. The actual fiscal year 14 spending was $102 million across all three categories. Out of the revised $117 million, this is about 87% expended. At 40% of fiscal year 14 capital spending, waterworks is becoming a larger part of the CIP pie now that the largest wastewater projects are mostly completed, a reality that is evident in this more global view, which shows that waterworks only represents 26.5% of life-to-date spending from the capital improvement program from when the authority was created in 1985. From 1985 through fiscal year 2014, over $7.84 billion has been spent on capital improvements. Over $115 million has been on business and operation support, largely related to the automation of many systems and the importance of technological improvements in today's work environment. The wastewater system has required the most capital investment, but the tide is changing as many large court-ordered projects have been completed, like the Boston Harbor Cleanup Project, and others are reaching completion, like the CSO Control Program. All of this capital spending has resulted in a great deal of new infrastructure that will allow the authority to deliver optimum service to its member communities and ratepayers while continuing to meet new and stringent regulations from both federal and state environmental agencies. Moving now to the budget, direct costs, which includes personnel expenses, came in below budget, as did indirect costs, both of which will be reviewed shortly. Capital financing, on the other hand, requires an explanation of how the defeasance account works in relation to this category, as it impacts the bottom line for the fiscal year. Due to the way capital financing is calculated, the total operating costs are technically greater than budgeted, but this is due to an opportunity to prepay future debt, saving money in the long run. This will be discussed at the end of the video. Also mitigating the impact of higher than budgeted operating costs is the fact that the total revenue raised was about $4.2 million greater than budgeted due to a number of one-time revenue sources. To understand the nuances of the fiscal year, we'll dive in more deeply. The first part of direct expenses is personnel costs. Wages and salaries, overtime, and fringe benefits were all at or below the budgeted amounts. Workers' comp was overexpended, not because of an increase in claims, but instead due to the severity of claims received. This is budgeted based on a 3-year average. The second part of direct expenses is other, i.e. any direct expenses that are not related to personnel, and the total category came in at 100.2% expended, striking a balance between savings on line items such as chemicals and professional services, and overspending on things like utilities and maintenance, both of which are greatly affected by the weather. The total direct costs, personnel and other, was just under 99% expended for fiscal year 14. Indirect costs are driven mainly by reimbursements, which are pilot payments to municipalities and the money that the MWRA contributes to support DCR's budget. Also, the pension expense includes the annual required contribution as well as an optional payment made to accelerate the date at which the pension will be fully funded. It is currently over 90% funded with an official target of fiscal year 24 and a realistic target of fiscal year 17. Overall, the indirect expenses were under 99% expended for fiscal year 14. Finally, we'll view the capital financing in two different formats. First is this view, which shows a number of categories outside of debt service, such as the core fund deposit, current revenue for capital, and the capital lease. This view also shows the fiscal year 14 variable debt savings, the money saved due to the interest rate market remaining favorable for borrowers through the fiscal year. This $12 million will be shown again momentarily in relation to the defeasance account strategy. When actual capital financing costs are less than budgeted, the savings are added to the defeasance account. This table shows the categories of capital financing that were less than budgeted in fiscal year 14, including the variable rate debt just mentioned. With other savings, the total defeasance for fiscal year 14 was just under $21 million. The defeasance account strategy allows the authority's Administration and Finance Department to identify defeasance transaction when bonds are callable, which essentially pays off outstanding debt before it's due. Not all outstanding bonds are eligible to be called, so there is an element of timing involved. This defeasance transaction is comprised of the $21 million just discussed, along with additional monies from fiscal year 14, defease funds from fiscal year 13, and funds from escrow, allowing for $29.6 million in future debt to be paid in full now, lowering the rate revenue requirement in future years. Overall, the authority's fiscal year 14 financials were positive. Greater than budgeted revenues and lower than budgeted debt service allowed for a large transfer to the defeasance account and an even larger defeasance transaction, improving the outlook for ratepayers in the next few years. If you have any questions or would simply like more information, please contact us directly or visit our website at www.mwraadvisoryboard.com.